Funny,
Well, I don't want to keep Nick Johnson waiting any
Oh, yeah,
longer.
Nick.
He's the director of FSHD research at VCU, Virginia Commonwealth.
Oh, yeah.
Let's bring him in. You can talk a little about him, and his experience in some of these collaborative meetings, maybe.
Oh, he's been there. He's been to these?
I believe he has. So let's find out.
Let's
Hey,
find out.
Nick.
Hey, Nick.
Hey, how are you?
Welcome.
Doing
Glad
great,
you're here.
sir.
Thanks for waiting patiently in the waiting room there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let you guys get at it.
Well, welcome, Nick. Thanks for joining here on the FSHD Study Radiothon. I don't even know what hour I'm in right now, but I got a little ways to go. So, thanks for spending the time. That's like number one, and pulling away from whatever you're doing today to kind of take a moment, chat with us a little bit. But those that don't know who you are, that are kind of watching, listening, can you explain? I know you're out of VCU, but what kind of work are you doing, Nick?
Great. First of all, I want to thank you and the FSHD Society for having me. I think this is a great event, great idea, and I'm hopeful that you've had a lot of good conversations throughout the day. By way of introduction, I'm Nick Johnson. I'm a Vice Chair of Research at Virginia Commonwealth University. I have a clinic that's focused on genetic muscle and nerve diseases, including FSHD. And I do clinical research as part of the FSHD clinical trial research network led by Dr. Statlin and Twill, as well as doing clinical trials in FSHD for a number of years.
Nice. So you mentioned clinical trial, right? That's going to get a lot of people's ears up.
Yes, no, clinical trial. I mean, that's what we're in the business for, right?
Right. That's right.
Moving treatments forward.
Yes. So what can you tell us about the trial that's happening now that you're involved with it? Those, information that people would like to know.
Well, we just wrapped up the phase 2 losmapimod study. I'm excited to see many of the programs moving forward, including Fulcrum's losmapimod program moving into phase 3 clinical trial, which VCU will be participating in. I'm also super excited to see the Avidity Biosciences FSHD clinical trial program begin to work its way into human studies. I think that's going to be a real win, and I'm quite optimistic about the number of trials and programs that are coming over the next 1 to 2 years.
Yeah, it's definitely getting a lot of buzz. Phase 3, losmapimod, first one to hit to phase 3. We're obviously all excited that it's getting to this point. But obviously, safety is important, and that going through the due diligence of working the process through. And I'm going to kind of speak probably as someone probably listening or watching that's like a patient. Okay, but how long is that going to take? They get real anxious. We all do. And then, they want to know what's that timeline look like and this and that. And it's always, if I've never had to field those questions directly myself, but I always get a little bit cringeworthy. I'm like, well, don't you want it safe? Don't you want to make sure it works? Make sure they, the right people do the right job and the due diligence. But, guess your take on that, on the timeline, kind of putting people's minds at ease that it takes what it takes because there's a reason.
Yeah, I mean, I think I will tell you that the clinicians and scientists working on the hand in hand with the participants in these studies are just as anxious to move a drug into clinic and be able to help those patients. I recognize I had clinic today, and I can tell you, it's disappointing for myself as well as patients to hear, oh, I didn't qualify for that study, or I have to wait for it to get approved. I share that disappointment. I also share that hope and drive to moving towards an approved therapy. But as you said, the reason why it takes so long is, first of all, we can't do any harm. We have to make sure that any drugs that come into clinic are safe, and then equally important is to make sure that they are effective, that they treat the disease, and does what we think it's going to do. Because if you think about it, let's say, just for example, you take drug X, we don't do our diligence, it's not really effective. Well, we're now required in perpetuity to be able to test future therapies against drug X. Right. And there's a risk that we're going to be prescribing something that's costing you money, costing patients money, costing insurance companies money, and not really doing anything other than potentially causing harm. So that safe and effective, so important, and such high bars to reach, and that's really where it takes time. I will say that as trial programs move forward, there is always a possibility that individuals can reach out to companies and see if they have expanded access programs. I think sometimes when we get very close, like towards the very end of the tunnel, it can open up, the light opens up a lot quicker than you think it will. And there's sometimes an ability to do an expanded access or something where you can get the therapy that's moving towards market approval prior to it actually being fully approved.
Okay, that's good. So you gave some hope there on the timeline that there's things in place and we know why, but light comes at the end, and that if it's close, then maybe we release the hounds a little bit earlier, so to speak.
Yeah, I think that's right. That's a good way of saying it. So.
I'm a very plain man.
I like that. That's a good way to say it.
Now, before you jumped on, Lee was talking a little bit, and one of the things that she mentioned, Lee Reynolds, was that we had the International Research Congress meeting back in Orlando in June. Were you a part of that? That's something that we weren't sure.
No, unfortunately, I had to miss it. June is a busy time for meetings, and I heard great results were presented, though.
Really? Okay. So at least you have the perspective of that we are trying. We always try to tell people that this is Giving Tuesday. So we're generating funds, we're generating money, and then people always ask, well, where's it going? And some of it does go to fund research, things like that. International Research Congress, that we're bringing the minds together. How valuable do you think that is, in your professional opinion? You're in the field, to have something like that happen.
Yeah, I think that's exceedingly valuable. That's something where we work. This is a rare disease, and you really want everybody rowing in the same direction. And the best way of doing that is making people get together, present their work in public, discuss it, get feedback from their colleagues, say, hey, I'm working on something similar. Let's partner up. I think in general, it's been a great community to be a part of. It's very collegial, and like I said, there's not competition. People are working towards the same end goal. Yeah. So it's a great meeting.
Good. So it has value. So Giving Tuesday, meet your match of your money here today.
Yep. Giving Tuesday. I think the other place that I'll call out specifically is the FSHD Clinical Trial Research Network, which is supported by the FSHD Society. That if you want to be able to run trials effectively and expediently, I will tell you that from start to finish, some sites might take up to a year or two to begin a new clinical trial. The infrastructure that the FSHD Society has funded reduces that time, brings those trials forward, and allows startup to be a lot more efficient and more rigorous. So I think that kind of research network that they've supported has been really critical in getting us to a place where we have multiple clinical trials in the space. So that's another big shout out to work that's being supported by the FSHD Society.
Excellent. Well said. Thank you. That's a good plug. I like that. See, comes right from Mr. Nick Johnson himself. So, let's just be aware that your money is helping in those resources. And that's what, and of course it trims the time then, doesn't it? And that's what we said before. People get anxious. They want to have treatments quickly, but having the CTRN shrinks that time. Without it, you're stumbling, right? It's just another hurdle.
Yeah, I think it brings, like I said, brings people together, keeps people together. As with many other industries and clinical research, there's been a lot of turnover, with the COVID-19 pandemic, and thankfully that's been reduced, again, by the support that the FSHD Society provides to those research network sites, so that they're able to get through trial startup efficiently and are motivated and focused on doing work in this disease.
And then we have people, of course, listening that are patients that are in the community. And we like to ask those that are in the research world and in trials, what is still needed from the patients? What do you need from the community? How can they help?
Yeah, so I think that's a great question, and I always think about it as a partnership. I mean, we're doing the work, but so are individuals in the community. I mean, um, the amount of time and effort it takes to participate in one of these clinical trials is a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of effort. I think those who do participate in trials should be commended for taking the time out of their day and their regular activities to be able to help move the community forward. And I will say that with so many of these trials, you mentioned, for example, the Fulcrum study is going to take a large number of patients. And so probably the very best and top line thing somebody in the community could do would be to reach out to one of these research sites, see if they qualify for a study and help enroll and participate in it. And when you're doing that, I think everybody wants to say, "Oh, I'm going into this super exciting study," but I want to give a shout out to some of the natural history studies that, like Resolve or Move, that lay the groundwork for those clinical trials. And granted, there's no therapy involved, but the time and effort that people take participating in those studies provides the data that's needed to be able to effectively design those clinical trials. And that really helps us, like I said, move forward as quickly as possible. So participate in the study if you can. And if you can't do that, it's Giving Tuesday. So helps the FSHD Society and recognize that that's a thoughtful group of individuals that are focused on driving these research projects forward.
Well said. Well said. Thanks, Nick. I like that plug too. Yeah, it's Giving Tuesday and the match. We have this $150,000 match, and we're really trying. We got another little boost of cash here the last hour, but I've been in this seat since 10 a.m. Central Time, and I want to see, that it was for not just for nothing, Nick. So you plugging helps get people more undecided on the fence. Do I give or not? Showing that the funds are going to a couple things you mentioned directly to help fund those type of things that help in your research. So then last question, going into like 2023. What do you see? What is on the horizon? What can you share that is, positive, good news for the community?
Yeah, so I think I'm excited to see the work get completed and some of these natural history studies resolve and move, and hopefully move us more into away from the natural history and into the clinical trial space. I'm excited first and foremost by the number of drug trials that we're going to see in 2023. Not, like I said, not just Fulcrum and Avidity, but also Roche and potentially a few others. And so I think this is going to be an exciting time. One of the things people will have to pay attention to is which trials they might qualify for, which ones offer them the most benefit for the symptoms they have at that time period. Those questions best had with a clinical investigator or clinician at that trial site, who can work with you, answer questions about the risks and benefits of the different studies. I mean, they're not all created equal in terms of how much risk is involved, how much potential benefits involved, the amount of the chance of getting placebo or not placebo, that kind of thing. So those are really questions that you should think about and come prepared with. If you're interested in participating in one of those trials, and the research coordinators at those sites are going to be ready and happy to answer those.
That is great advice. That's actually one of all the great guests we've had on that was not mentioned yet, of like those questions to ask at those research sites. That's great advice. Well, thanks, Nick, for being here. You're giving some great nuggets. But is there anything else that I missed? Anything else that you want to share that I didn't miss?
No, I think I hope that you've had a great day. It sounds like I saw the lineup. You've had a number of speakers, and good luck meeting your goals.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. And thanks for being in the trenches with us and helping us out, trying to find a treatment and cure for this. We appreciate it. There's Lee. There's the producer.
Thanks, Nick. So glad to have you on today. Thanks for being here.
Happy to help. Thank you.
Take care. All right, moving right along.
It is
That
tough.
was great.
Yeah, it is. But man, it's tough to talk to science when my brain is feeling a little melty.
I think that's why we put most of them in the morning. I know we're starting to get a little melty, both you and I. And that's okay. We got it. We're getting in the home stretch now, right? So
We are? Well, then the final push is coming up. We
only have 3 hours left.
And it's going to be a great 3 hours.
It's 2.5. We only have
2.5. 2.5.
We have 2.5 hours left. I looked at the schedule. I'm like, oh, that's not that many guests. And then I went, oh, wait, that's 2.5 hours.
Yeah, I know. I'm getting to the end of my page and I'm like, oh, well, that's only, okay.
Oh, yeah, 2.5 hours left. We just topped $18,000 raised so far from all the different avenues.
Let's hit 20K before I take my break. Yes.
I would really like to hit 28,000 in the next hour. And we know there's gifts that are still coming in.
Yeah.
We know that Catherine from Roche is going to make those gifts. Those are not on the books yet. There's several others that are coming that are not on the books yet. So this is between the Facebook individual fundraisers that people have put up and through the fundraiser that we set up and through our online page.